This week on Quality Digest Live, how leaders can foster a growth mindset for the betterment of themselves and their organizations. We'll have that story and a pair of interesting interviews when we come back. And welcome back to Quality Digest Live for August 24th, 2018. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Mike Richmond, publisher of Quality Digest, and our usual co-host, Dirk Ducharme, remains on vacation somewhere in the wilds of Scotland, playing golf, I'm sure, or doing something. Actually, he's probably drinking wine, but Dirk will be back in a couple of weeks. Well, we start the show this week with a story about one of our favorite programs from NIST, and that is the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, the MEP. You can see it right there. The MEP's mission is to enhance the productivity and technological performance of U.S. manufacturing. The program was founded in 1988 and has centers in all 50 states, plus Puerto Rico. It's funded in part by the federal government and in part by each individual center. The program serves small to medium-sized manufacturers by providing tools, technology, and training to help them maximize their efficiency and ultimately their success. Now, in Tuesday's issue of the Quality Digest newsletter, we linked out to a news item titled "Century-Old Factory Gets an Upgrade with 6S." The piece first appeared on the MEP's Manufacturing Innovation blog earlier this month. The story talks about Penn Troy Manufacturing, Inc. And now they're a third-generation family-owned business housed in a 100-year-old complex in Troy, Pennsylvania. With 45 employees, the company is focused on supplying assemblies and machine components to the water supply and locomotive industries. The company was having issues with workplace organization. Many companies have those kind of issues, and efficiency as well. And so they turned to the Northeastern Pennsylvania Industrial Resource Center, which is part of the Pennsylvania's MEP. As I mentioned, all 50 states have MEPs, Manufacturing Extension Partnership Centers, and this was the Pennsylvania one that helped this particular organization. The MEP team came in and helped Penn Troy implement a 6S program, and 6S stands for 1 safety, 2 sort, 3 set in order, 4 shine, 5 standardize, and 6 sustain. Now, many of you may know 5S, but this one incorporated safety as a 6S as well. Now, the organization was also helped by integrating 6S into their quality management system by the MEP, which further codified the changes for good that the organization achieved. The results were pretty impressive. I mean, they increased or retained more than $1.4 million in sales. They had cost savings of $49,000. They had 6 jobs created and 10 jobs retained. So those are pretty good results. Again, it's a small organization, 45 employees. So those are pretty notable successes. Now, there are success stories like this happening at MEP centers across the country. And if you want to find out more, just check out the story link. It's right below our player page, right down there. Or visit online at nist.gov/MEP. You can find out more. If you don't know what the MEP program is all about, you're a manufacturer anywhere here in the United States, check it out. You might find some really good resources there from the MEP program. Okay. Well, for our first feature on the show today, we're going to chat about a philosophy of organizational excellence and improvement that really continues to grow and resonate year after year. W. Edwards Deming was one of the towering figures in the fields of statistics, quality, business, and management during the 20th century, but his perspectives are as valid now as they were during his lifetime, maybe even more. Deming's philosophy which were found, of course, in his well-regarded books like Out of the Crisis, as well as The New Economics, and his countless seminars to business leaders across the world. They're considered really a holistic and systematic approach to organizational transformation. The W. Edwards Deming Institute carries on the great man's legacy through workshops and seminars, scholarships, and conferences. In fact, the group's annual conference, Why Deming, Why Now, takes place October 5th and 6th in Manhattan Beach, California. Joining us now to chat about the Deming philosophy in this year's conference, which is, by the way, their 25th anniversary one, is Chairman of the Advisory Council of the W. Edwards Deming Institute, Kelly Allen. Kelly, welcome to Quality Digest Live.
Wow, you did a great introduction there. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, let's start with the Deming philosophy. What is it? Why does it apply? And why is the philosophy still relevant today?
Well, the Deming philosophy, if I oversimplify a little bit, is to help individuals and organizations be all that they can be. From an organizational perspective, it's so that everyone wins: owners, stockholders, employees, customers, suppliers, to achieve in part the Deming chain reaction, which is to create jobs, jobs, and more good jobs, because that's the foundation of a good, solid economy. In a nutshell, that's the high level view. As we dig down a little bit deeper, the way we accomplish that, the way Deming wanted us to accomplish that, is through the system of profound knowledge, which he outlines in the New Economics. And the system of profound knowledge is really just 4 points about how to go about optimizing the organization as a system. From an individual standpoint, I think it's especially interesting to your readers and listeners because they already have a core expertise related to the quality tools, which I sometimes refer to as technical quality. And though that expertise now combined with the system of profound knowledge, those 4 elements, makes for a very, very robust and sustainable and creates a work environment and organization and helps people to continue to be really effective and to be all that they can be, even as they're helping their organization be all that it can be.
And I mentioned in that quick intro that this is the 25th anniversary of the conference, the Deming conference. Of course, it's coming up here in October in Southern California. So what can people that might want to go to the conference expect? What are they going to get out of going to an event like this?
Well, there are a number of things. For your readers and listeners, there's something I think even more special, and that is they get some exposure to the system of profound knowledge so that they can see then how they can fit their expertise with that system of profound knowledge, those 4 elements that Deming shared with us. That has, I think, ramifications not only for their careers, but also for their organizations and for creating a better world. So, I mean, I ask it this way: who wouldn't want to be more successful? Who wouldn't want to make a bigger difference? And the answer, especially from the people in the quality community, is we all do. That's why people went into the quality field. That's why they are interested in quality management, because they want to make a difference and they want to make things better. So that exposure to the conference, I think, is helpful, in part because most of us spend a lot of time, and we should spend a lot of time in our work being heads down, looking at the work, figuring things out, making things better. And maybe once or twice a year, most folks get to go to a conference within their professional arena or within their industry. And that helps give us a little more heads up view of how the bigger view of the horizon. With the Deming conference, you get both learning that's related to the heads down, what you need for your work, but you also get that big heads up view of what's coming. And the conference itself is 25, you mentioned 25 years. This is our anniversary. Dr. Deming created the Deming Institute 25 years ago. And the Institute's been working hard on a lot of things during those years. And I think the Institute is at a launch pad point to launch for the next 25 years. And we are going to need a lot of help to do this. So one of the big initiatives that we're going to be unveiling at the conference has to do with Deming Online. It's a Deming Online Learning Initiative. So every year the Institute can reach, through podcasts and seminars and papers, et cetera, a few thousand people, and that's great. But through this initiative, we're going to be able to reach that many people every month. And that's going to grow every month through the years. So we're going to be reaching hundreds of thousands of people. And we're basically a volunteer organization. So we like to engage more people in helping with that online learning, being facilitators, being focus group members, being engaged with creating the content. And the conference is the place where we want to meet you. We want to have you meet us, collaborate, have you get signed up to help. We're just not able to handle all that through email and telephone calls. So the conference is our kickoff point to engage your readers and your listeners with the Institute going forward. So we think that has powerful things both for career as well as just satisfaction.
Well, Kelly, let me personalize this a little bit with you, because I know you've been with this institute for a while. You've worked in this space for a while. And what was it about the Deming philosophy that first attracted you personally? And how has it had an effect on you and your career in your life?
How much time do you have?
Briefly, the high level.
What attracted me, I think, was the robustness of the math and the science, including the quality tools and things like control charts, but also the humanity, so that you can have win-win in organizations so that they can be places where people can have joy in work and make a difference and do great work. To my experience, and I've been doing this a long time and I read a lot, I have never seen another approach that is so holistic, integrated, and scientifically elegant. So there's nothing there that's missing, but everything that you need is there and it works together.
And Kelly, in the minute or two we have left, maybe you can quickly just let people know. So how can they find out more information if people want to, come to the conference or just find out more about the Deming Institute? Where can they go? What can they do?
Deming.org is the place to start. And one of the other new things that's going to be unveiled at the conference is some new software called ED, for Ed Deming, Edwards Deming. And if they go to Deming.org and scroll down, they can click on Spotlight and they'll see how to get access to this new software. And it's sort of the perfect thing for quality practitioners, because it's that combination of the quality tools and integrated with the system of profound knowledge. So there's that variation, appreciation for a system, psychology, and the theory of knowledge. So PDSAs and operational definitions. And it's a beautiful thing. We're using it, and many of our clients are using it. It's so easy.
Well, Kelly Allen, thanks again for joining us. That's a lot of great information. I think everyone out there appreciates that. I should also mention that one of your colleagues, Bill Bellows, actually has written an article for us that is going to be appearing in Quality Digest very shortly about why Deming, why now. Kind of expands on some of the points you just talked about why this is such a great time and why everyone really should be aware of what Deming represents. And so I want to obviously recommend everyone out there keeps an eye peeled for that piece as well.
Absolutely, and thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. It was really great seeing you. We'll see you again. We'll see you at the conference in a couple months.
Oh, that'll be wonderful.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye. Well, there it is. Yeah, good stuff there. We really like, a lot of you are such big Deming fans. We always love to cover what the Deming Institute is doing. And yeah, check out the story coming up from Bill Bellows soon. You'll find out more information about the conference and how you can participate on that. All right, well, for the next feature, we're going to turn to the world of psychology to shed a little light and a little insight into how mindsets, particularly of leaders, can affect the effectiveness of organizations. How leaders can foster a growth mindset is the name of this article, which appeared in Monday's issue of the Quality Digest newsletter. It was written by consultant, speaker, and leadership coach Elena Love, and it first ran on the Smart Brief blog late last month. Now, Love's article jumps off from the work of Stanford University professor and researcher Carol Dweck. Many of you may know Dweck. You may have heard of Carol Dweck, or maybe you haven't. But from Dweck comes this idea that most people have either a fixed or a growth mindset. Those with fixed mindsets tend to believe that one's achievements come from their inherent qualities, like intelligence and inherent abilities. On the other hand, people with a growth mindset see the key to success as persistence and adaptability. So it's not so much where you start, it's where you end up. Kind of a very different perspective. The way that this manifests itself for organizational leaders isn't really very hard to see. Executives with fixed mindsets may tend to hire and promote people who are pretty much like themselves, who have certain inherent attributes and attitudes, but may shrink from experimentation out of a fear of failure. That's really a key thing of the fixed mindset, is failure is really set up as a big fear, and that you don't want to risk failure, so you don't take risks to succeed either. Eventually, and usually it doesn't take very long, that is going to lead to what you could call a stultifying culture in the organization in which no one takes any risks, and that's not a good thing. To encourage a growth mindset in yourself and in your company, Love Inner Peace suggests 4 behaviors, and I want to run through these fairly quickly. The first is to place a high value on learning. That means investing in yourself and your organizational knowledge base, even when times are tough. I mean, it's easy when financially things aren't going very well to cut off training and access to knowledge. But if you don't do that, you're going to fail to promote intellectual curiosity, and that's going to yield innovation. So if you don't do that, you run the risk of not doing those things. The second one is to admit when failures occur and capitalize on them. I mean, a hallmark, again, of the growth mindset is an ability to see failure as just a speed bump on the road to ultimate success. And you can support that perspective in your own organization by rewarding team effort as opposed to specific outcomes. Dweck talks about this within the framework of raising children. Not that managing a team and raising children are the same, but she talks about it from the perspective of, as a parent with a young child, you can either have a choice of someone, if your child does something well, you can say, well, you're so smart, it's so great you did that, you're so smart. Or you can say, that's so great you did that, you worked really hard to achieve that. There are different values that you're imparting there. So, giving people some props for the effort as opposed to just the outcome is really important. The third one of these is develop as many people as you can. I mean, instead of giving opportunities repeatedly just to a few of the rising stars, growth mindset leaders and organizations let everyone have a crack at finding solutions. I mean, you never know where that next great idea is going to come from, so it's really important that you spread that love around. And fourth, and finally, is stay open to feedback. Growth mindset leaders got that way because they listened and they acted appropriately to advice to improve. I mean, plus when you listen, when you really listen, don't just pretend to listen, but when you really listen to feedback from your team, you're building trust and you're showing them that you're going to walk your talk. You're not just going to say, well, we're a growth mindset organization, we're going to be open to ideas. But if you're closed off to ideas and closed off to being challenged, you probably have somewhat of a fixed mindset yourself. It's very hard to encourage a growth mindset attitude in an organization when you as a leader are a fixed mindset person, so be aware of that. And again, paying attention to those psychological cues and clues are really important factors. They're important factors for success, again, for yourself and for the organization. So you want to challenge yourself. And if you're falling into those fixed mindset behaviors, be aware of it and see if you can maybe do some things to help change your perspective. Okay, well, for our final piece on the show today, we have a little bit of time. We're going to cover Industry 4.0. And Industry 4.0 is a phrase that really has become synonymous with a kind of digital transformation that changes almost everything about how manufacturers operate. These organizations use tools such as the Industrial Internet of Things, IIoT, to enable continuous improvement and change and drive the kinds of change and performance gains needed to remain competitive. This places quality and safety leaders at something of a crossroads, however, since digitalization comes with risks as well as opportunities. Companies have traditionally viewed safety and quality as separate functions. The industrial sector has made really great progress in recent years towards integrating safety and quality at the enterprise level, mostly in the form of management systems, but to a lesser extent in terms of teams and processes and information technology systems too. The widespread availability and accelerating adoption of Industry 4.0 and smart manufacturing technologies creates a fresh opportunity for the quality and safety business functions to work together. But this can cause a fundamental change in how they relate to each other, as well as connect with plant equipment, systems and processes, and people, of course, in the never-ending quest to maximize value. Well, there's a lot there to chew on. I certainly said a lot of syllables, but to help us make sense of it all, we're joined now by Dan Jacob, and Dan is the Research Director and Principal Analyst at L&S Research, and he's also the author of the new ebook, Driving Operational Performance with Digital Innovation, Connecting Risk, Quality, and Safety for Superior Results. So, Dan, welcome back to Quality Digest Live.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having us back.
Yeah, that was a mouthful. Sorry, I had to kind of squeeze all that in there as we brought you into the show. But yeah, it's really good to have you. You've been on the show before, and your report really was an interesting one. It's very complete and detailed. You always do a great job with your report. So just to break it down for us, what would you say are the key commonalities that you uncovered between the quality and safety functions as it relates to Industry 4.0, really the big takeaway here on your report?
There's like you said, there's a lot of detail in there, some very specific guidance. But at a high level, if you look at quality, safety, and risk, those are the three areas we really wanted to look at, the convergence between those three. And there's a reason why we picked them specifically. First of all, if you look at the management systems, there's been some solid work done by ISO to enable the management systems themselves to be connected together, which has lowered the threshold, right? It's made it a lot easier for those different the management systems themselves to be connected. But also, if you look at the challenges that are faced by safety leaders and by quality leaders, they have a lot of shared challenges there. There's initiatives around building culture of quality or culture of safety. Those are top of mind considerations. They've got similar challenges from a data management perspective. You're generating real-time metrics, looking at having consistent processes across the organization. So those challenges are shared, but really we can share problems, but what's much more effective is when you have those problems, but on the other side, like with safety, quality, and risk, there's also a lot of value, perceived value by operational leaders, so by plant managers, in terms of the importance of quality and safety to their operations. Both of those disciplines really have a direct impact on the output of a plant, the operational effectiveness of the plant itself, and to add really an underlying theme that really emphasizes the importance of quality, safety, and risk today. You're talking about the industrial Internet of Things and digital transformation. Well, quality and safety are both areas that are highlighted today in the digital transformation initiatives. We see statistically they bubble up to the top in terms of use cases that companies are pursuing today. But also we're seeing in a lot of the digital transformation initiatives we're working with the manufacturing realm on. So lots of activity in this area. Those digital transformation initiatives are in many cases being championed by the board of directors, pushed down to the CEO, so the C-suite, the chief operating officer, chief executive officer, CIO, CTO. There's new rules out there like the chief digital officer. That C-suite is actively working on these, and again, prioritizing these initiatives. So it's a very important time, almost like a once in a career opportunity for quality and safety leaders to work together to drive improvement and drive results, both for the digital transformation, but also more broadly.
And Dan, there's an interesting phrase that is found in this ebook. We talked about it before on the show. We've had you on the show before. The digital innovation cycle framework is one that I think is really an interesting idea. So yeah. How do manufacturers in particular use that to change and to innovate and to improve?
Yes, I think there's, we first introduced the digital innovation cycle in our new product introduction research that we performed earlier this year. And it has a lot of importance here for quality and safety leaders. I think your discussion you just had about a growth mindset really applies perfectly to this. If you look at digital transformation in general, it's really about change, but there's also, and you hear a lot of talk about machine learning and roles and advanced industrial analytics, et cetera. That's really important, but there's also a lot of other elements there. You mentioned trust, right? So a culture, having a mutual culture of trust and a culture of change, and having mutual collaboration So there's a lot of moving pieces that really go into innovation. And if you look at innovation and disruption, they're top of mind today. And for a good reason. It's not just about the Ubers and the Airbnbs and all that kind of stuff. There's disruption occurring across entire industry segments right now, where there's maybe some brands that are aging and new competitors that are coming in and changing the marketplace. So lots of impact out there from an innovation perspective. So it's top of mind, again, C-suite level stuff. And when you look at all of this, the way we define the digital innovation cycle, it breaks it out into a couple key pieces. You can recognize both the importance of insights as well as ambiguity around those insights. So again, as a quality or a safety leader, take a step back and look at where are insights coming from? Do we have a good grasp on our traditional insights like cost of work quality? Do you measure that on a regular basis? Do you have visibility in terms of the root causes that are driving some of those challenges you might be facing there? Your customer complaints, non-conformances, a lot of those elements. But also new insights that can drive in deeper and give you insights into, for instance, just whether or not a semiconductor wafer failed, but what the conditions were that led up to that wafer failure. Are there segments of the wafer that are still usable, et cetera, et cetera? Are there certain tests that you're running that aren't necessarily delivering high value versus others? What are those decisions you can make now with a data-driven mindset that are reduce some of that ambiguity and increase your insights? But that's one piece. The second piece is actually taking that and adapting it internally, and then making a decision. So you got to be able to pull the trigger, and then finally acting. And there's a lot of frameworks and stuff we have in place, culturally and people and process already in place to help decide and how we act. So how do you go through that process and really drive innovation, both around new products, but also we're seeing a ton of use cases and innovation occurring in operations. And again, with quality and safety's priority today in digital transformation, and I'm not sure that priority is going to remain on the same topics a few years from now. Really today, it's really critical to be engaged as a quality and safety leader to assess where you stand and how to drive innovation.
Yeah, that's the key point. And one thing that we should talk about here, we have a couple minutes left, is weaving risk into this too. You kind of alluded to risk in some of those examples. So ultimately, what did your findings or do your findings show in terms of the key benefits of integrating risk as well as quality and safety in this way?
Yeah, so I mean, risk is really, first of all, it's top of mind in the quality and safety world today, and for good reason. A lot more focus from the management systems on this topic. And because it's such an important part of having a proactive approach, a proactive stance to improving quality and safety. So there's a lot of potential value to be derived from risk, but we still approach it in many cases in a similar fashion to what we've done for the last several decades. It's not that there's been process enhancements, but the underlying data that drives this is still, there's a lot of gaps, right? It kind of goes right back to that digital innovation cycle we talked about, the insights and the ambiguity. There's a lot of ambiguity in terms of our risk. And those who are taking a digital approach, transformed approach around risk, have much deeper insights in terms of what's working, what isn't, and identifying them, quantifying them, mitigating them, validating that the mitigations have worked, et cetera. So there's a lot of opportunity there to become more proactive and take better insights that lead to a more proactive approach.
Well, Dan Jacob, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. You always provide great insight into the realities of the manufacturing world. I thank you for joining us today. You have an article actually coming up with us in another week or two that the audience out there should be aware of that's going to further break down the report and your findings a little bit. So we'll be able to publish that for you guys, and the audience will be able to check that out as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Dan. You have a great weekend. We'll see you.
You too.
Alrighty, well that's our show, everybody. Thank you all for joining us too. A couple of good interviews for you today. We have another one coming up for you next week. We're going to be looking at some more interesting stuff with regard to ISO. So join us then, and of course join us next Monday. We have a big week of Quality Digest newsletter coming up for you then. And like I say, next Friday back here for Quality Digest Live. So you all have a great weekend. We'll see you then.